All right. The Parsha of Mishpatim. There's a lot going on in the Parsha. We're going to focus right at the beginning because we didn't make it past the beginning. And talk about a beautiful, beautiful message that we learned from this week's Parsha and the way the Torah wants things done, and we'll see how other people do it. The beginning of the Parsha talks about a person unfortunately stole money or he owes money, he can't pay it back, he steals, the guy goes, to make it exciting, he steals from his neighbor a couple $100, and he has no money, he spends it, he bought himself food, and there's no more food, he can't pay his neighbor, he gets caught, he goes to Bezdin says, listen, you owe your neighbor $600, he says, I don't have $600. What does Bezdin do? Bezdin sells him as a slave. He gets sold. They put him up on the auction, his value is, let's say $100. They sell him for 6 years. At the end of 6 years, he made $600. He pays the money back. He goes back home to his family. Beautiful. Very interesting wording that the Torah says about buying a slave. Kisikna eved ivri. If a person buys one of these people, you acquire for yourself a slave. Kisikna eved ivri. You buy yourself a slave, which we explain. What does that mean? You buy yourself a slave. The Gemara uses a word, kana adon la'atzma. You acquire, when you buy a slave, you are really not getting a slave, you're getting a master. What does that mean? You get a master. I went to the auction, I have a guy, he's going to mop my floors, drive me around town, or do my shopping, do whatever I need. No. Zok the Gemara, you didn't just get a slave, you actually got yourself a master. What does that mean? The Gemara explains. There are a lot of halachas that we have when you buy a slave. It's not the way we could treat other people, treat your friends. You actually have to treat them very well. Gemara explains if a person has 2 pieces of bread, one of them is fresh, and one of them is from a local store here, then you have to give your slave the fresh bread, and you have to eat the local bread. Yeah, again, I'm sorry. Good point, Zevi. This is only a Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave. A non-Jewish slave, don't worry. Well, that's for next week. They all them. But there's a Jewish slave who gets sold for stealing. A non-Jew actually gets killed for stealing, so he won't be sold. And for keeping Shabbos, right? So a Jewish slave, he goes, and the Gemara says again. And if you have good wine, which is older wine, the older the wine is, it's better. And you have new wine, you actually have to give him the older wine, and you get the newer wine, which is not as good. And a person has 2 beds. One of them is more comfortable, and one of them is less comfortable. He has to be equal to you, and you actually have to give him the comfortable bed. So that's what it means. You think you're buying a slave. You went to the auction. You bought this guy off this for a couple $100. You really got yourself a big package because you're right. He does work for you. He will drive you around. He'll do your shopping, but you have to treat him like you're going to treat yourself. How's it going? Fine, I'll tell you after because it's going to take a very long time. But that's a good point. I mean, how could a guy get punished? How could he get death? But that's totally not what we're going to talk about, and we're going to get there. Maybe after, if you're still around. Right? So that's what the Gemara explains. You bought a slave, but you didn't just buy yourself a slave, you bought yourself a master. The question's obvious. It doesn't make any sense. This guy stole. He stole money from a friend. He's a lowlife. He has no money to pay for it. He did something wrong. Now he's getting treatment equal to his master. He gets sold as a slave to work there. How is that possible? What makes sense about that? What's the point? What's he doing? He's going to prison. Except instead of locking him up in jail, we're making him work to pay back the money. And now he's working to pay back the money, and he gets this great treatment. What's the logic behind it? What's the reasoning behind it? And why does the Torah require these halachas? So I want to go back. Take a step away from there. In America, there's a big push. This is a very recent thing. It's actually one of the biggest Jews are behind it, this guy Margaretin. It could be you know him, not related to this Margaretin. Yeah, I do. I asked him. So this guy, and he's big pushing, and one of his things, he does make a lot of money off pushing it somehow. I don't know how, but he makes a lot of money. There's a concept called prison reform. Where does it come from? I'll tell you. I'm going to read to you a study that was done. The most recent government study, this was done by the Bureau of Justice Statistics, which is BJS. I don't know how accurate they are, but they're pretty good. The most recent government study shows us that people that went to jail not reading the fancy words, so we can all do it. Reported 82% of people incarcerated in state prisons were arrested at some point in 10 years following their release. It means 82% of people that went to jail were back in jail within 10 years, but the vast majority were arrested within 3 years. So it means most people that actually went to jail, a guy stole money, a guy hits your car, right? This guy's driving down the street, Cedar, he smashes your car, we pull him over, he's drunk, or he goes to jail, whatever it is, and he's driving a stolen car. We throw him into jail. 82% of those people ended up back. Now, something scary, on juveniles, that it's even higher. Most children that ended up in juvenile within a year, right, it's over 90% within a year ended up back, right? So really, what are we doing? We're taking the guy, think about it for a second. We take a guy, we throw him into jail, took a guy, whatever he did, a juvenile kid, he got caught with, I don't know, or he tried shooting someone, we throw him into jail. Within a year, 90% of those kids are back in jail. So what are we getting putting him in jail? If we think about it for a second, right? And the stories go on. If you want to Google it, it's very easy. The stories are endless amount of people that they go to jail and they end up going back. 60% people go back for crimes that were worse than their original crime. So if they got arrested for stealing, they were going to go back for murder. 60% went back for a crime that was worse. All right? That's just the country we live in, right? What's the idea? Well, how's that possible? We put a guy in jail. He did something wrong. He gets punished. It's not fun over there. It's boot camp. It's not easy. You can read the stories that they write about themselves. Jail's not a fun place. You get food. You're locked up in prison. It's a lot of fighting. So why are they going back? How's it possible? I'll tell you the answer. The reality is that most of his time, this is an article written, up to 20 hours a day, he's locked in a cell with other inmates, listening to them discuss how to break into cars, steal credit cards, or murder. That's the reality. 20 hours a day, you're sitting there around people, and that's what they're talking about. How do we steal? How do we kill? And that's eventually the guy does that for 20 hours a day. He leaves jail. He's an expert on stealing. He's an expert at getting away with murder, and he's going to 80% of those people end up. There's nothing to do in prison except drugs, play cards, or work out in the yard. That's what they write. These are testimonials of people in prison. Released prisoners may be less capable of living a lawful life than they were prior to their imprisonment. It means not only are we putting them in prison, they come out less prepared to deal with the world. They can't deal with it, right? They're in prison, even if the people there short term. Right. That's what happens. We take away everything from them. It's great. Beautiful system. So this is the American system we live in, right? Person goes to jail. 80%, these are factual numbers. 80% are going to end up back there. They're destroyed. We destroy their lives. We throw them in. They're punished. They went through boot camp. They know that they can't do it again. And what happens? 80% are going to end up back in there. Juvenile, it's even higher. The reason why juvenile, it's even higher, because the less you are prepared for life, the more damage is going to happen to you when you're in jail. Older people have more experience in life. It's a better chance they'll do well when they leave. Not a better, it's very slim. But juvenile that has nothing, no tools to deal with life, when he goes to jail, it's done. It's 90% and plus that he's going to end up back in. So let's go back to the pasuk. The pasuk says you buy an Eved Ivri. This is the system we live. How's the Torah deal with this? Sikna Eved Ivri. You buy an Eved Ivri. Chazal teach us, what do you do? No. This guy has to go to jail. We don't throw him into a solitary confinement. We put him into a house. He has a friend, someone that bought him, acquired him. He's an Eved. He's your slave. But you treat him like a master. You have 2 pieces of bread. He gets the better one. You have wine. He gets the better one. We show him. What are we showing them? You're a person you stole. You took something that didn't belong to you. You're insensitive that the idea. You needed, let's say, take for example, you wanted a coat. You needed that coat, or you needed that phone. You don't care. Wait, I'm going to take that coat. What do you mean you're taking that coat? Somebody else over here doesn't have a coat because you decided to take a coat. Or somebody else over here lost $100 because you needed $100. You don't really care about another person. You don't care that you making someone else in pain. You're ruining someone else's life. That doesn't matter to you. You don't care about that. What's the idea? That's the problem. So what did the guy do? He stole, which it's other problems to steal also. You're taking something that doesn't belong to you. Simply, you don't believe in Hashem that he's going to give it to you if you needed it. There's problems like that. But there's a big problem over there that you're not sensitive. You don't care about another individual. You can't think about that. Wait, if I take this guy's snack, he doesn't have snack, right? On a very little level, it's low. He's not going to have his bag of chips. He bought it. He wants it. It's his. On a big level, you take money. This guy worked to make money, and now you're taking it. You don't care about him. And it doesn't matter if it's a small individual, a friend, a roommate, or it's a rich man. You don't say, what? Well, Mr. Rich guy, he has $1 million. He doesn't care if I take one. No, he has his money. It's his. By taking it, you're taking something of his. Or you walk into a huge corporation, it doesn't make a difference. It's theirs, and you're causing them loss. You can't think about another individual or another person. You don't have sensitivity. So how does the Torah fix that? We throw him into a house. The master has a lot of halachas. He bought you as a slave. You're right, you're a slave. This guy's a slave, and he has to do work. He has to do chores, and he has to clean. But he gets treated very nicely. He gets treated like another yid should get treated. There's 2 pieces of bread. You give him the nicer one. There's a nice bed, and not such a comfortable bed. There's 2 pillows. One of them's a little fluffier. He gets it because you don't make him worse. I don't treat you like you're lower than me. We're equal. Now, you work for me, that's true, but we're equal. You're not a worse person, and you're not better than me. You're a yid, I'm a yid, we're equal, and I want you to be good. We teach them how to be sensitive and care about other people. That's how the Torah says when a person steals, when a person does something wrong, we deal with it. We don't throw him into jail, take away all his life skills, bring him out, and set him up for disaster because we don't really care about him. The Torah says total opposite. We throw him into another house. We put him into a house. We teach him these skills that, no, you got to care about other people. How do we do that? We show it to him. We give him a master that cares about him, that wants him to work, obviously, and it's not a contradiction, but you care about him.
Why would somebody want to buy that anyway?
Because he cleans your floors. He does mop. And he does jobs for you.
I have to give him everything that I have. Why wouldn't I buy
You have to make him equal. So you have to make sure he's equal. You have to have wine for both of you.
buy like a regular slave? Why?
The chores outweigh that for that person. Right? At the end of the day, he's working for you 12 hours a day. He's going to go out to the field and work your field or milk your cows or do whatever you need.
You don't pay as much.
And,
Right, you're getting way more.
right? Or get a non-Jewish slave. Right. And that is the idea. You also have the opportunity to fix another yid's life. Right? You have the opportunity to buy somebody and help him out. It's a tremendous lesson how the Torah tells us to deal with punishment and what we should learn out when we take something for somebody else. It doesn't, right? We think that we don't care about him. It's not just that you don't care. The Torah tells you we got to care, and we throw him into a house, and we teach him those midas. Have a good Shabbos.
Everybody stand. Everybody stand. Mr. Matlis is going to be here in a minute.